Joining me now is Betsy Mayotte from the Institute of Student Loan Advisors. Betsy, always great to see you. Thanks for joining us again this morning.
It is nice to be back.
And I see you've changed locations, no longer in Florida, I see. Are you back in
I
Massachusetts?
am I am back in Plymouth, America's hometown.
Very, very nice. Well, I hope the weather is beautiful. I'm in Charlotte, as you know, and the weather has started warming up, and I hope it is the same where you are. Let's talk about these new student loan, I'm going to call them rules. You know the better terminology. Effective July 1st, we've got a lot of changes coming up, Betsy.
We do. So HR1, which is the budget bill that passed last summer, made probably some of the most significant changes to higher education financing policy that we've seen in 10 or 15 years at least. There are changes. The biggest changes affect the how much people can borrow to go to school in the first place. So, especially for graduate students or students attending like medical school or so on, they've significantly. So there used to really be no limit to how much you could borrow for federal loans, and now there's a limit.
Okay.
For graduate students, that limit is going to be 20,500 a year, no more than 100,000 for that graduate degree. And for like say a very so for a very limited amount of what we call professional programs, so your med school, your law school, that they have a slightly increased limit of 50,000 a year, no more than 200,000 total. So that's one of the really big changes.
Yeah, that's significant. And I guess we have to go back to the debates around the who, how, and the why. But we've talked about this for years, you and I, and I'm sure you've done it with others. The cost of college has just been expansive. It's just gone up. Is this designed to maybe help people limit their financial exposure? Is that why they capped it at 100,000 for graduate level courses?
You know, I'm not sure what Congress was thinking. I have a feeling
Neither
that
am I. Neither am
right?
I.
I have a feeling that Congress thinks that reducing the loan limit will force the colleges to reduce the cost. And I'm not so sure that that is really going to be the outcome. But time will tell.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you've got this curtailment. I'm going to call it curtailment. There's probably a much better cap. You use the word cap. Let me ask you about parent borrowers. How
Yeah, the
how
parent
are they?
borrowers
Go ahead. I'm
really
sorry.
parent borrowers really got the short end of the stick. I would say way more than everybody else in that same piece of legislation. So, for one, they are also reducing the amount that parent borrowers can borrow on behalf of their undergraduate student. That's used to be unlimited. Now it's 20,000 a year, no more than 65 grand per dependent undergraduate student. But here's the part that really worries me, Jeff. They also essentially got rid of all the lower payment options for parents who borrow on or after July 1st. So if you think about it, sure, they reduce the amount they can borrow, but let's look at a family of four, right? They put both children through school. They take the new maximum. They still owe 130 grand in Parent Plus loans, and they won't have any lower payment options. So I have real concerns for parents being able to afford to put their kids through school, and if they do manage to do that, being able to afford the payments after that.
So can each parent file separately, or it's a collective combined amount between
It's a
the
combined
two?
amount per dependent student.
Okay, okay. So they could have multiple students and see that, be at that cap, but it still presents a challenge in terms of further borrowing. And what other alternatives would they have to get loans? Would they go to the private loan marketplace or what, are there?
Right. So if
Yeah.
they hit the cap and they still need funding, their only alternative they do have are private or state loans. And those very rarely have any lower payment options themselves. And often, it's very common for me to see in the Tisla inbox people with private loans with 12 and 14% interest rates.
Oof,
It's
that's a lot.
gross.
I mean, think about that. You think you grew up well, I'll out myself. I grew up in the 70s and 80s with double digit interest rates. I won't out you in terms of your age. But so I kind of remember that, but you don't want that. That interest really adds up. I'm assuming you mentioned your inbox. You're probably getting a litany of questions to the Tisla email box
Our volume has doubled in the past 2 months.
just because of this provision, or because of the cap, or
Um,
just in general.
it's we're probably half the volume is attributed to all the changes, and we've just scratched the surface here, Jeff, because I know we have limited time.
Yeah.
Half the changes for July 1st, and the other half is because of people that are on the SAVE plan, which of course has been challenged in the courts, and that whole process has finally ended. So those borrowers saying, "All right, now what do I do?"
So Betsy, what do they do? I mean, they're coming to you. What's the general advice? Save plan's been ixnayed. What do they do?
So starting July 1st, those borrowers that are in that SAVE limbo, and there's over 7 million of them, are going to get a notice giving them 90 days to switch plans. Now, not everyone's going to get the notice on July 1st. They're going to stagger it. But by the end of the year, everybody on the SAVE plan is going to have switched plans. And so at this point, they need to see what the next plan is that fits their long-term student loan strategy. And that could be another income-driven plan like income-based repayment. Maybe the new RAP plan that's going to be effective on July 1st is going to be the best fit for them. But what I'm seeing is a lot of borrowers are saying they can't afford the next lowest plan for them. So I mean, the default rates have already shot through the roof, and I have a feeling that because of all the things we've already talked about today, Jeff, that that's going to continue.
It's almost analogous in some ways. I had to re-enroll on the Affordable Care Act website, healthcare.gov. And I don't know if you remember this. I don't know how you get your insurance, but I mean, the premiums almost went up by a third. And it seems almost similar, analogous to that.
You
That
know,
that it's another area where people are getting kind of squeezed, or are getting
well,
squeezed.
I'm glad you brought that up because not only are people on the SAVE plan, they're seeing most likely a very much increased payment, but all this stuff is hitting at once. The healthcare premium, gas prices, housing prices, these especially low and middle class borrowers are getting hit with all these really big increases all at the same time.
So, do you think that's going to change the thinking about where, like, really, again, going back to is college appropriate for everyone? And I know there's been some expansions with 529 plans to things like the trades. The other thing is, 2-year schools, commonly called community college. Do you think this squeeze, and we're all facing it, but certainly middle income, lower income people are feeling it more. Do you think that maybe they're going to curtail or change their buying process and maybe look at some of these other alternatives, and then that actually may work out better for their children and themselves longer term?
Yeah, I've always agreed that college isn't for everybody. I think everybody should get some form of higher education, but that's not all. That's a 4-year undergraduate degree is not the solution, the best bet for everybody. It could be a trade, it could be an apprenticeship. Um, but I do think that families are going to be forced to start looking at alternative pathways, whether it be attending a lower price school like a community college for the first 2 years and then transferring in, which I've always been a fan of doing that.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, just hindsight's always 2020, and I've been out of school for a long time. But had I didn't know what I wanted to be, and some would argue, my wife would tell you, I don't know what I want to be now. But I think it takes time. You got to go through that maturation process and figure out what you like, what you don't like. Spending money at a 4-year school can be very expensive for a lot of people. That 2-year alternative is a good alternative. You learn a lot, and you kind of hone your skills. Betsy, real quick, I want to give a shout out to Tisla. Do you do regular webinars? I mean, people can reach out to you directly. I'll put your email in the lower third, not your personal email, but the directions to reach Tisla. But are you doing regular webinars and seminars on these types of things every week and month?
We um we work with employers, associations, other organizations that bring us in to do webinars for their particular constituency. We do them all the time.
Okay.
So
So people,
my face is out there.
yeah, well, your face is out there for very good reason, but they can reach out to you directly if someone's watching this and they need Betsy and her team to come in. She's the, as far as I know, the aforementioned expert. Betsy, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks for the deep dive, and look, we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for watching, and don't forget we're back again tomorrow morning with another great expert and another great topic. You can tune in right here Monday through Sunday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse, for all the news in one place, delivered directly to your email box. Check it out at our website.